Good afternoon, everyone. And we at Slack are really excited to be a part of this forum and platform. So it's great to see that so many people turned up. And I know there's a sort of a holiday here and stuff, but great to be a part of this conversation. I'm Rohan Pagey, and in next 15 odd minutes, I'm going to sort of talk about how you can unlock productivity with the power of automation and AI, and how you can do that through Slack. So maybe let me start with a sort of a forward statement, because I'm going to talk about a little bit of what we have in future from a roadmap perspective. So if you can move to the next slide, in terms of just a disclaimer there, in terms of roadmap and strategies that I'm going to share with you. Moving on from here, let me start with a thank you. I think it's, again, thanks to the BW team for putting this great event up, and looking forward to engage with a lot of leaders in the future as the day progresses. But also thanking the audience here. Like I said, it's a holiday and all of you have come in large numbers. I'm really excited to share our vision, our strategy as we move forward, and also share some customer success as to how some of the customers are leveraging, as I said, AI and automation powered through Slack as they build their journey within the fintech ecosystem. Before I maybe if you can move to the next slide, please. Yep, I've done that. Maybe move to the next one. I think today we're talking about an industry which is always in a hyper-growth mode, right? If you talk about all the great things, I mean, I've been reading about this, talking to a lot of leaders, and what I've come across is, and in fact, it's called out in this forum as well, the market opportunity of 1.25 trillion by 2025. Sure, thank you. By 2025 is a massive opportunity that the fintech industry offers. Add to that 4,200 odd active fintech players that are already existing in this market. Add to that the problem that this industry is solving. It's basically creating financial independence for a certain segment, for the 1.545 billion population that we have in India, which essentially is going to make a huge impact on the Indian economy in itself. Now, as we talk about some of these aspects of hypergrowth and all the opportunity, I'm pretty sure a lot of you probably also would agree that there are certain challenges. I mean, the headwinds are all there. Some people call it a funding winter. Some people are already working on some financial models to try and figure out what's the best model to way forward is, and so on and so forth. But one consistent aspect that has always been represented by this industry is the hypergrowth. And I think if you see some numbers out here, and there's a reason for us to believe that fintech ecosystem that exists in India can shape up the global fintech ecosystem, because if you look at the fintech adoption, it's 87% in India rather than 64% that exists globally. So I think all these numbers are definitely, sort of exciting enough for us to for us to think that this is the future. Of course, we can always talk about the challenges, the headwinds that are coming our way, and that's obviously the nature of the business. But again, like I said, hypergrowth remains to be the bottom line of what we do. Now, let's try and look at the phase of growth. A lot of you probably would have seen this. A lot of you probably align to this. This is typically how a startup ecosystem looks at. I mean, it may not be very exactly as fintech progresses, but I think one critical aspect that we come across in a lot of organizations that we engage with is the phase 3, which is the hypergrowth mode. Now, what do we mean by that? This is a phase where a fintech organization is basically moving from being a mid-size organization to a larger or extra large size organization. And there's multitasking happening at this phase across the leadership level or the founder level. While you have already defined your product roadmap and the product strategy, you are trying to create that differentiator today or that competitive advantage as to how you can build that up. While you're doing that, you're also trying to figure out your go-to-market strategy and the segment that you have already identified as a key segment for you to focus on. As the people and processes are growing, you are trying to optimize your IT and processes as well by investing into technology and also looking at what investments are going to make sense. While all of this is happening, this has clearly three main builders, if I have to say, as you move through that journey. First builder is obviously as you grow with people and as people come as a part of your ecosystem, an employee experience part of it and user experience part of it starts taking center stage as you build that up. You move to the next part of it, like I said, optimizing your investments into IT while you are streamlining processes, and that's happening at a rapid pace. It's something that your IT teams start working through. But there's one more important aspect that is now, becoming an important consideration, which is regulations and compliances that are coming up. In a lot of cases, what we have also realized is while there has been a growth trajectory, a lot of these fintechs have been on. Now with this becoming a more and more regulated industry, I think there is an RBI guideline that comes in almost every 6 months. There is a latest one which has come in June last a week before. It is always a catching up game in terms of keeping up with that. And a lot of investment is now also going into putting a CISO organization and trying to make sure you are compliant, because that can have a massive impact on your growth journey in itself. So when you start building all of this up, of course you will probably say there are challenges associated with this, with in a hyper growth mode. And these are the typical challenges. And now, again, a lot of you probably will agree to this. A lot of you will probably align to some of these challenges. The buzzword, I think the first one, cost optimization, right? I think everybody today is talking about cost optimization in some sense or the other. I think that's a word which probably will be used on this forum as well multiple times. Now, cost optimization has two elements in your industry, in the fintech industry. One is how do you optimize cost of acquiring a customer, which is a very important aspect of it. The second is how do you keep optimizing costs that you're making in terms of the technology investments that you are making. Of course, the way you start looking at that, and that's what we probably some of these yellow boxes talk about, as to how do you bring automation into play for your teams to be more productive as you start going into, as you start building your efficiencies, which is again aligned to the cost optimization aspect that I spoke about. Now, as you are optimizing your costs, customer experience cannot take a back seat, and probably all of us would agree to this. And we do see a lot of our customers actually coming up with, and this is true and not rocket science, there are multiple digital channels that there's an investment being made for you to take consistent feedback from your customer. That feedback is so important because at the end of the day, as we spoke about in the hypergrowth model where you are trying to differentiate your product or create a competitive advantage, all that feedback essentially goes into that for you to create that product, right? Now, of course, for that to happen, your engineering, product development teams have to really integrate a lot of their softwares together to collaborate really, really well, and which essentially will impact the ability for them to get a product faster to the market. I think that becomes a critical consideration at that stage. I think security and regulation, I've touched upon it, so I'm not going to go deeper into it, but data protection is a critical component. A lot of people talk about, yes, there's a lot of PII data, a lot of people don't have access to. But interestingly, we do come across a lot of our customers who are today using some social platforms to really, engage and have collaboration, especially when they're developing joint products with their external partners, banks or NBFCs and so on and so forth, with absolutely no control of what's happening on those social platforms or sort of what kind of information is getting exchanged. Now, that is a clear sort of, a regulatory compliance challenge that you probably will face or would be in process as you move into future. And the last bit is partner strategy, right? I mean, we are in an ecosystem where partners play a critical role. It's a 360-degree ecosystem that we speak about today. I think when I talk about partner ecosystem and sort of, give you a quick perspective, at the end, I think today a lot of NBFCs, a lot of banks, a lot of fintechs are all coming together to sort of develop maybe jointly a products, co-branded cards and so on and so forth are already there. But also in certain cases, a lot of fintechs are impacting banks in a way of their acquisition journey of a customer. All of this, again, requires a lot of seamless collaboration that needs to come together. Today, there are not many avenues in the market for you to do it while you can do it, but you can't do it in a secured way. And that again is a critical consideration, as you don't want to reduce your speed of that engagement, but also want to make sure that all the data that is getting exchanged or all aspects of knowledge that is getting shared is something which is regulated and secured at the same time. Now, these are some potential challenges that probably you would see now in the ecosystem that you operate in. I think there are companies, of course, that are trying to solve a lot of these challenges, but essentially, if you look at it, a lot of this approach is a very siloed approach in the way it's being executed. Now, we do see, a lot of organizations are trying to, work in a siloed way, and what that means is you are not able to really leverage the power of automation or AI to really drive that, drive that productivity or efficiency enhancements. It essentially is becoming a lot linear, disconnected, disengaged, and is posing its own challenges. Now, here is where we talk about a platform which becomes a single source of engagement, single source of record, and single source of knowledge. All of that in a secured environment is what we essentially talk about when we talk about Slack as a productivity platform. Of course, leveraging and harnessing the power of AI and automation. I will not get deeper into this. Obviously, I'll stick to some key areas, and we are all here. We have a team that is present here. You can always have a discussion with us. But I'll focus on 3 critical aspects of this. The first one is accelerating your work with automation. I think we have some great examples of adoption of UPI really at the ground level. Automation needs to percolate down to your every single employee. That's when you will sort of impact your productivity. It needs to be, I as a general employee of an organization should be able to automate my work. And when we talk about automation of work, whether we talk about already available integrations, whether we talk about customized integration that you can come in, whether I talk about a sales guy in an organization who's integrating CRM into my system of record, whether I talk about an engineering person who's integrating Jira and Confluence into my system of record, or whether I'm talking about a usual employee who's integrating an HRMS tool within my system of records, that is where I'm getting impacted on the productivity that I speak about based on the AI aspects that I bring onto the table. The second aspect, I think, and is a very critical thing, and we hear this a lot, is about your ability to share and search knowledge. Today, with the influx of people, like I said, the hyper-growth mode, there are people coming in, there's a lot of information getting created, a lot of source of information getting sort of, leveraged into, but there is no single source of, of truth that is getting created, or say a knowledge center that is getting created within an organization. Now think about a scenario where I join a project which is running for last 6 months, and I come into middle of that project, and that's a very usual scenario that you probably see across organizations. I have to literally reach out to 10 different people. I have to literally reach out to send 15 different emails to people for me to get the right information coming to me so that I become productive and start contributing to that project. Think about, based on the AI search capabilities that bring onto that platform, this is all, the information is available for me at a single click. I don't need to go to anyone. I just need to do a search, and I have the information, the key milestones of that project. In fact, I can do an organization-wide search. If I'm a new employee, I need some information of my tax, aspects of it. I can just do a search. I don't need to reach out to people. Now, all of that information can be shared, of course, with the right controls and security aspects of it being covered for people to be self-dependent to drive that. And that is where, again, you start impacting productivity, which essentially leads to an impact on efficiency of an organization. And the third aspect of it, connect and engage. I think this is, a lot of you probably say, yeah, communication is a very simple aspect of it. Of course it is, and I think that's not something which I'm going to talk about it, because that's bare minimum basics that you're talking about. But your ability to engage and connect, which is again with the partner ecosystem that I called out again, in a 360-degree fashion, is something which is what the differentiator is. Today we are working with one of the, and I think it was called out about, say ONDC was a name which was taken. We are working with that organization in terms of trying to help to build a pre-boarding to a off-boarding journey of a partner ecosystem with a vision of creating 1.26 million partners by 2026. Now, how do you create that whole connection and how do you create that whole ecosystem for you to scale it up to that level? Now, that's where we talk about a connect and engagement issue. I mean, if I have to reiterate, yes, I'm not talking about a video conferencing solution. I'm not talking about an email. I'm not talking about an Excel sheets that people are working on different aspects of it. I'm talking about a single mode of engagement, single system of record, which is a source of truth, and a single system of sharing of knowledge and information that sits there, which is the reason we call ourselves a productivity platform and not a collaboration tool in that sense. Now, I think if I have to get into KPIs, and the beauty of what we do, and again, we have almost 100 odd fintechs that are partnering with us today as we speak within India, and that team is growing up as we speak. I think we have an ability to impact KPIs across an organization, across the different roles and responsibilities, and you can probably see some of the numbers. Whether it's sales, we have an ability to impact their sales cycle. I mean, and some of the numbers are validated by organizations like Forrester's here. If you are talking about increasing efficiency from a services aspect of it, how can you reduce your cost per ticket? That's an impact that we can bring onto the table. Your project delivery teams. I took an example of a project management of a project of an individual who's coming into a project. How can you impact productivity on that front? And the last piece is, which is more internal, your employee engagement, the user experience part of it, right from a onboarding to a offboarding of a particular user. How do you manage that whole journey from an HR perspective is something that we bring an impact on. So at the end of the day, I mean, it depends on what KPIs are driving, because typically all these KPIs are directly related to the business outcome of an organization. And if you start impacting these KPIs that are across the organization, irrespective of what your roles are, that's when you start delivering a business impact or a business outcome that your organization intends to drive out of it. So I think as I move to the last bit of slide, I will be probably doing injustice to the crowd if I don't talk about the buzzword called ChatGPT. How many of you, and this is going to be a stupid question, but how many of you actually have heard of ChatGPT? Oh, that's great. It has to be 100%, right? Okay, let me start getting a little bit deeper into this. How many of you know? Obviously, OpenAI is the organization, right? I'm sure all of you know that. How many of you that know that Microsoft has invested $11 billion in OpenAI? Yeah, absolutely. All of you know that. Do you know there's a commercial engagement also with Microsoft with an OpenAI in terms of go-to-market and all of that? I think that's obviously there. How do you know that OpenAI's entire productivity platform is built on Slack? That's the information I intended to drive. So the point that and just do a YouTube search and you will find a testimony of OpenAI leaders talking about how Slack has made an impact on all these aspects because they use it wall to wall, and in terms of how it's become an ingrained part of their culture. So that's the power of productivity platform that we talk about, and that's a great example. Now that gives me also an opportunity to introduce Slack GPT. And this is something that is currently in beta. A lot of our customers are already experiencing it. This allows us having an opportunity for us to have a bidirectional integration, because one of our customers had built, who's OpenAI, a bidirectional integration with Slack, which will allow our customers to have an ability to do again, a much more deeper search. Maybe a writing assistance will be available within Slack itself. You can actually, summarize the key milestones of a project or of an entire, channel that you are a part of it. And there's much more to it that is coming in as we speak in terms of the launch that we are doing. Again, the intent is for us to build Slack as a single point of engagement. Like I said, it's a single point of engagement from a system of record perspective, from a system of sharing of information perspective, and from a system of ability for you to collaborate across the ecosystem that you engage with in a very, very secured manner. If some of these numbers, and I'm not going to deep dive into this, but these are validated by Forrester, and it's an important aspect. We spoke about cost optimization, right? The ROI aspect is critical. Now think about the ROI across different users that we are able to generate. On an average, 300% ROI. This is validated by Forrester. This is not Slack data, by the way. I think you can probably see it. Now, like I said, I think if you are in it to impact KPIs of the individuals that work within your organization, which essentially impacts the outcomes that you are chasing, we are not a technology or IT-driven tool. We are a business-driven productivity platform. So I think if you are in it for it, and if a lot of you probably might be using it, and there is always a roadmap that we come up with. We have now ability to integrate your DLP engines within Slack. We do have our native DLP that we have introduced. We have native MDM solution that is a part of it. So we are on a roadmap of bringing new innovation. ChatGPT is a great example of it as we move. If you want to be a part of this journey, please speak to us. We're going to be around. But let me, share my last slide probably, which is basically the partners that we already have in India. These are some of the names that you can see. All of them are leveraging Slack for all the aspects that I spoke about, and there are enough and more testimonies of this. You can do a search around it, and you'll find a lot of people talking about this. Now, with that, I would like to thank you for listening to me patiently. Do I have a couple of questions that I can take time, or maybe later? Yeah, okay, so maybe I'm gonna be around. We have a team here, so please feel free to reach out to us, and look forward to having engagements, but you have good rest of the day. Thank you.